We are videotaping this session today and the session January 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Community Center. That's the other session we've scheduled to have this. It's really not a dialogue, folks. This is for you to give us feedback. We're going to go through a few slides. We're going to give you a little bit of the background again, but we're going to be here to go through the process of hearing what you have to say. That's why you have the sticky notes and the pencils or the pens on the tables. After we go through the brief presentations, we have posters on the wall, and they come in 3 or 4 areas, right? Likes, dislikes, new ideas, and unanswered questions. So as we're going through this brief presentation again, please keep those in mind and write on the sticky notes. The colors have no significance or relevance, so just use whatever color you want. And that's how we're going to get your feedback. And just to be really honest about it, what's happened in the past is we've had a significant dialogue back and forth, lots of questions. Not everybody got their questions answered or got to talk. So this is the way where every single person in this room will have the opportunity to give us your feedback, not just 5 people. So, and that's what we're here to do. The City Council had a study session in December on this topic, and I think some people understand where the City Council is and some people don't. The reality is there's no decision to move forward with this project. There's no decision to not move forward with this project. The decision is to hear from everyone in the room or who comes to these meetings or otherwise and gives us feedback to understand what are the opportunities in this plan. How could it be changed? How could it not be changed? Should we just scrap it? Should we move forward? And that's what we're going to give after these 2 sessions to the City Council, a report that talks about the raw data that we get from you today and sort of are there some similarities? Are there some areas that we can aggregate and get to the City Council for them to discuss? So that's why we're here. I hope no one's disappointed. We're not going to answer questions. We're done with that. We did, I don't know how many, guys, 6, I don't know, how many was it, Kelly? 6 town halls, and then the petition came, or the initiative, the ballot initiative. So we're not going to be doing that today. So if you came to do that and have an exchange with us, it's not going to happen. And I'm going to stick really firm to that because we came here at the direction of the City Council to let you begin to remember the project and understand what's in it, the open space, the development, the density, that kind of thing. And where we started and where we are today is we want to hear from you, and we want to hear from every single person. So hopefully that's clear. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Farrell, who's from CORE, who's done a lot of these presentations, and he's going to give a brief overview. And then Bob Gibbs is here, thankfully, from California within the hour, and he's going to go over the plan in summary form, look at the open space, and then we will do our questions and your comments and feedbacks up there, and you will get a full report. There will be a full report to the City Council, and that will be on the website for all to see. So this is for all of you. So anyway, Matt.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. By introduction, my name is Matt Farrell. I'm the CEO and co-founder of CORE Partners. We are a commercial development, property management, and brokerage firm based in Bingham Farms. I was raised in Troy as a young youth, currently reside in Oakland County, and have my entire life. It's been an honor to work on this project with the city and its administration for the last couple of years in the willingness to be creative and get outside the box and look at what the future has in store for the city of Troy. With that said, I'm going to look at the 40,000-foot picture. Big picture, what the concepts are, and I'm going to turn it over to Bob for the detail of the site. We all know where Michigan is. We have a few benefits in that blue there with nice fresh water. At some point, hopefully, it'll become overly relevant in our futures. Oakland County, Michigan, one of the wealthiest counties in the United States, and AAA bonded. AAA bonded is a key factor of the merits of any project within the marketplace. Troy, Michigan, AAA bonded city, A+ rated schools, 125 approximate daytime employees, world-class shopping with the Somerset Collection, and one of the lowest tax rates in Oakland County. Who appreciates having low tax rates? Okay. Safest city in Michigan. This one I can't emphasize enough. We work throughout the entire region, multiple states, especially in Oakland County. Being the safest city and being tagged with that label is a huge, huge perk, and compliments to everybody in this room. The site, approximately 127 acres, comprised Huber, down around the DMC Children's Hospital, behind the Troy Marriott, Liberty Center. Does not include these, so it wraps around, up, over, and back. It is home to the City Hall, Troy Public Library, where we're here today, the Police Department, 52nd 4th District Court, Community Center, the Family Aquatic Center, the Racquet Club, the skate park. It's neighboring by adjacencies to the Troy Marriott, DMC Children's Hospital, and many Class A office buildings and shopping around. Let's talk about the potential for a second. Our neighboring city in Birmingham, arguably, for most parties in Southeast Michigan would say, is the most well-rounded and more viable mixed-use, multi-type use downtown urban walkable center in Southeast Michigan. When I think urban walkable, we think of Ann Arbor. We now think of downtown Detroit, which 5 years ago we wouldn't have said. Plymouth, Rochester Hills, Royal Oak, Birmingham, but arguably on everything working relatively well, retail, office, housing, in a working function, Birmingham does it and has done it consistently better than most. There's 424 multifamily units. This red line represents an estimated 108 acres, just to give a perspective. There's 79 office properties totaling 1.8 million square feet, and 95 properties in retail for 900,000 square feet. How many people in this room have enjoyed downtown Birmingham and what it has to offer? They've done a pretty nice job. Parks, green space, housing, retail, they have challenges. They have some big challenges right now because the office vacancy in downtown Birmingham is because of lack of foresight in parking and not being ahead of the curve to handle parking issues. And they just went through a major change with a retail amendment recently that's going to change the face of it a little bit further. Now let's look at another one that we all know relatively well. Downtown Royal Oak. Again, this red line represents about 106 acres, and that has 606 multifamily units, 27 office properties totaling 680,000 square feet, and 107 retail facilities at about 760,000 square feet. By show of hands, how many people have enjoyed this community? Likewise. I think it lacks a few things. It lacks green space. It lacks a little bit of character, and unfortunately it's got probably too many bars and restaurants and not enough daytime office traffic. So the restaurants churn a lot, and there's a lot of brands and entrepreneurs coming in and out because there's not the daytime office traffic. Fortunately, they've made some good moves in the last couple of years, and the largest developments happening there now are office buildings, and they're starting to bring that back. So here's where we are today talking about the potential of this project, or an opportunity with the city of Troy. 127 acres, we have 0 multifamily, 0 office, and 0 retail that are in the essentially private sector use. We do have, in the blue, the public sector buildings, the assets of the city. Neighboring, we have 6,800 multifamily units in Troy, 337 office properties totaling 18.2 million square feet, and 367 retail facilities totaling 8.8 million square feet. Now, I want to back up for 1 second and stay right there. When we started this process, I am not a planning expert, I'm not a multifamily expert, I'm not a mixed-use expert. I'm a committed professional in the commercial setting in Southeast Michigan, understand Troy. This is where my bread has been buttered most of my professional career. And we have a team of 127 employees committed to this industry. Bob Gibbs is an absolute expert in creating walkable urban planning design work. And the amount of information that we all have learned in this process, working with Bob and his team, and traveling around the country to look at some of these other developments that are happening in other markets is remarkable. There's an opportunity to potentially create a solution for the future to satisfy what we consider to be a few gaps in the Troy market. Number one gap is the lack of postgraduate housing, post-college graduate housing that has the right size, the right cost, and the right dynamics to come back to. A second is the gap in the empty nester housing, those that want to retire but still want to stay in the safest city in the market and not have that size or quality or cost of housing stock for that. And the third element is walkability. I can't deny the trends and what is occurring across the country, not just here in Troy, but across the country, and why the urban centers like Detroit, Ann Arbor, Royal Oak, and Birmingham, and other urban walkable centers are dominating the future workforce and the future labor pools. Every company that we represent, from insurance to law to automotive to manufacturing, are absolutely in the fight of their life in this region for their future workforce. And so I encourage all parties to be open-minded, be creative, express your opinions, please. That's what this is for. We have enjoyed the process of collaborating with council, planning, civic leaders, and this plan started at 6 concepts, was in a room of 70 to 80 people to narrow it down with good and bad ideas to 4 concepts, was then back in a room of 80 or 90 people to whittle it down to 2 concepts, and those 2 concepts went to a budgeting process. And it started here and here. And the reality of the final of what you'll see here, which is not, it's still concept, it's way down here. It's a very underscaled intent based on what the market studies showed it could be. So with that, thank you for allowing the comments. I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Bob Gibbs. Bob. Write down all your comments, questions.
Anyway, my name is Bob Gibbs. I'm a landscape architect. I'm based in Birmingham, Michigan. And about a year and a half ago, we were asked to discuss the feasibility of a town center being built on the Civic property. What I'm going to show you is our master plan, and a master plan is a concept drawing showing what it could be. The plan, if it's built, if it's developed, will certainly evolve considerably. Developers, if they come in with citizens' input, it'll probably change quite a bit. Only about 10 to 15% of the master plans that we build ever come close to what we show. So the purpose of this plan, the purpose of what we're going to illustrate is how the site could be developed, how the 100 acres could be developed as a walkable town centers. You probably know that walkable town centers are being developed around the country, including Ohio, Chicago, many cold weather states, because there's a lot of interest right now for people to be able to live in a place where they can walk and get a cup of coffee or have a walkable alternative. Statistically, about 25 to 30% of Americans really like living in walkable communities. About 25 to 30% of Americans prefer living in suburban communities and subdivisions. And about the other third, they're not sure. So this is designed for everybody. The scale of the proposal is for Troy, primarily for Troy residents. We don't see this being a hub where all of Southeast Michigan comes here.
I'll let you press the play button, Bob.
Let's see. There we go. Okay, great. Thank you. So this is a master plan. It's not set in stone. This is a concept of how the property could be developed should that be desired by the community. That was our intent, was to see if the site was large enough to handle a town center. We were asked by the Troy City Council to develop a walkable place. where people could live and work and shop and dine like you would in a traditional Main Street setting. These are occurring all over the United States. These are called town centers. They're not cities. They're not fake downtowns. They're town centers. This is one in Ohio, Michigan, in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, where it has office and residential on top of retail and shops and squares. This is a new one in Atlanta, Georgia, where it has lots of squares and parks that are open to the entire community. The parks are surrounded by retail and residential and hotels and office. All of these land uses reinforce themselves. A lot of people that live here like being able to go downstairs and get a cup of coffee. The restaurants do well because of the office and because of the hotels. So we're proposing a mixed town center that would include office or restaurants, a retail, a hotel, and then a residential and the civic uses. This is one in Ohio, in Northeast Ohio and Hudson, Ohio. And the key element of these town centers is to have multifamily residential and single-family residential surrounded by parks. And one of our tasks was to make sure that approximately the same amount of open space and parkland that's here now remains. Except, so that's what I'll show you. But the parkland is going to be fronted, a lot of it will be fronted with restaurants and cafes. Troy demographics, there's about 14,000 people in Troy right now that are 65 or older. There's about 20,000, about 65% of your households have no children. There's about 4,200 people that are millennials, age 20 to 24, and there's 1,300 people that live here with no cars. These demographics, the empty nesters, the millennials, many people that are in these demographic profiles like living in areas where they can walk to shops and coffee shops and libraries and civic elements. There are 4 primary proposals that we're recommending in the concept plan. We're recommending a variety of residential, everything from small cottage, single-family homes to townhomes to apartments. We ideally would like to see this include everybody from young single people to young families with children to millennials to empty nesters. We'd like to see all types of age groups and lifestyles living here. We are proposing commercial. We're proposing restaurants and shops. We did a market study and found that that's very supportable here. We're proposing additional civic buildings. We feel very fortunate to plan a site that already has 4 or 5 civic buildings like the library and the community center. We're proposing additional civic buildings and pavilions in the parks, and we feel that these civic buildings should be designed to be aspirational. They should be especially beautiful and well-designed buildings. We're proposing a lot of public realm. There's approximately the same amount of new parkland as is here right now. I'll show that in a minute. But the public realm, instead of just being behind somebody's house, is surrounded by shops and restaurants or residential. This is an example of a town center in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's called Birkdale Village. These apartments are amongst the highest renting apartments in the Charlotte market because a lot of people, about a third of the apartment renters, really like living where they can look down in shops and retail. We feel very fortunate that the civic buildings are here. We always, in our town centers, always plan one civic building. This is the first time we've done one that's had so many existing civic buildings. We were asked by the city to make sure that all of the existing civic buildings stay here. We are adding one additional large civic space for a future civic building. We don't know what it would be, but we reserved the best site, the site on the lake, the best location for a future civic building to be determined. And then, of course, this is the site. As Matt said, it's about 100 acres or so, 120 acres or so. It has the city hall, the police, the library, the courthouse, and the community center. These are, as an urban planner, these are our dream land uses to already have to work around. We never get these. Just to put things in scale, if you took the village of Rochester, this is how big the village of Rochester is compared to your site. We did the master plan for the village of Rochester 15 years ago. At the time, it's just retail. At the time, we proposed residential, but the city of Rochester Hills didn't want any residential at the time. Today, if that were built, it would include residential. To put things in scale, also, the village of Rochester is 350,000 square feet of retail. We're proposing about 250,000, a little less. This is downtown Birmingham. If you put all of downtown Birmingham would easily fit on the site, just to let you know how big 120 acres is. We're not proposing downtown Birmingham. That would be way too dense, but just to put it in scale, that's the size. The existing public realm, there is a lot of open space here, but it's open space. I wouldn't really define much of it as parkland. There are some parklands here, but a lot of the space are just kind of leftover spaces that are between parking lots. A lot of the open space, as you can see, where their parking lots have been expanded, and a lot of the open spaces are just leftover pieces here. There's an old parking lot right here. We're in the library right here. There's an old parking lot there. There's the community center. But here's the open space right now. There's a creek that runs through right here. Here's the aquatic center and the tennis center, and then the wooded park. This is our proposed new open space. It's roughly the same size as what's there right now, and I just wanted to point this out. All of these green lines represent new parks or parks that we're proposing. We're roughly just taking scraps of land that's between parking lots, removing the parking lots, rearranging the plan, and then reconfiguring these open space areas into parkland. So I've read a lot that a lot of people are afraid that we're getting rid of all of the open space. Factually, it's roughly about the same size, just reconfigured. We're proposing, for example, a 4 to 5 acre lake next to the community center. We feel that this lake we're proposing that it would be surrounded with parks and paths and such. And we feel that if developed, this would be a really great resource for everybody in the city of Troy. This is our proposed parkland. The library is right there. Here's the community center. We're proposing a new park around the community center with a large lake. This is a new civic center that we're proposing. We feel that civic centers should be located at the best location, so we're proposing that you consider reserving the best site for a future civic center. It would accommodate about a 60,000 square foot building. Huber Park is on the north end of the site, and we're proposing keeping Huber Park, of course, but we're proposing that Huber Park be reforested. Right now, Huber Park has a lot of cottonwoods and a lot of elm trees and poplar and a lot of invasive species. We're proposing that you retain a forester and that you replant it and make it into a hardwood forest with ground covers and ferns and flowering native species, and that it have a path system through the park so that it can be used even more. This shows these green areas are the existing open spaces, and they're very irregular shapes. Technically there's a lot of land here that's open space, but it's irregular shaped. This is, if you can see it very well inside orange, that's our proposed new open space. So we're roughly just taking what's there, reconfiguring it, putting shops and restaurants around it, and making it into more improved, more usable space. There is an existing creek that runs through the site. We're, of course, proposing keeping the creek, but turning it into a real water course that would be an amenity with paths and trails along it and residential. We do have to move a little bit, one small segment of the creek we're proposing moving. We're proposing a central square in the middle of the site. The central square would be surrounded by residential on top of retail Here's a view of the proposed central square. And then the new Civic building would be at the end of the square. This is very similar to the size of Cranbrook's Square. This is the Cranbrook Art Museum. And if you want to get a sense for the size and scale that we're proposing, it's roughly about that size. The difference is that it would be lined with restaurants and coffee shops and cafes. So this would be we feel, a very heavily used urban park if developed. It would be lined with restaurants. It would have flower beds and parks and playgrounds in it. And we feel a playground in a park like, we have seen playgrounds built in parks like that in Birmingham Shane Park, for example. They get a lot of heavy use. We're also proposing a fountain. And then there is a large open space area, of course, in front of City Hall. Excuse me. We were told that City Hall will need to be revitalized. Thank you. Will need to be updated someday. So we're proposing that the City Hall be have a new facade on it with a clock tower, and then that there be small shops and offices and a square built around the new City Hall. This would be a view from Big Beaver Road. This is Big Beaver Road looking at the new City Hall. So this is an example of where we're taking an open space, we're keeping the open space, but we're just surrounding it with shops. And we are proposing lots of residential. These are cottage homes. These are freestanding cottage homes on small village lots. The garages that are in the back. This has been one of the more popular proposals that we've presented. We're proposing a neighborhood of about 25 cottage homes. Depending on the market, there could be more. Of course, there could be less. But we have done a number of neighborhoods in Southeast Michigan with cottage homes. They're very popular. We're proposing mid-rise residential. These are 3 to 5 story residential buildings where you would have apartments or condominiums in them. Some of the residential buildings will have retail on the first level and then building a residential on top. Our overall program is for about 25 cottage homes, 100 townhomes, and 725 mid-rise homes. That would be about 850 total residential units. The site has the physical room for really several thousand units, and as a planner, I'd like to see more there, but they don't have the sewer capacity to handle that, so we restricted it to this size. This, of course, can change as we get community input and as developers make their own recommendations. This is a view of the central square. Here's the new proposed Civic building. Here's the existing creek. We're proposing a hotel on I-75, and then neighborhoods of residential. All in all, we're proposing 850 residential dwellings, 180,000 square feet of retail, including a small green grocer, and a 300-room hotel. We did go through, as Matt said, we presented 6 options. Our own, internally, we did about 15 options, but we narrowed it down to about 6. We went through a lot of options. We did get a lot of feedback, and we kept modifying the plan per the feedback we got. This is a view of the Civic square, what we call the central square, lined with shops and restaurants, and then that would be a new Civic building. That building is sized to accommodate what the librarian told us she would ideally like to have should you ever build a new library. We're not saying it's going to be a new library, but it is sized to accommodate the demand for a new library. It could be a performing arts center, it could be a museum, it could be a new city hall. We don't know what it'll be. But as an urban planner, I like to take the best site and reserve it for a public use rather than a condominium building. Here's our overall master plan. And again, this is a master plan. It's not set in stone. This is the way the site could be developed should the community choose to do so. And it is a town center. It's not a downtown. It's not a city. It's a mixed-use town center where people can live and recreate and shop and conduct civic buildings and civic uses. So thank you very much. I think Brian wants to have you write down some questions.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you, Bob. So before we move around, I just have a couple of comments, couple of question. How many people have seen this presentation in some form, shape, or any other way before? So Looks like we have a lot of returners. That's why we did more of a summary, and Bob does a really good job of highlighting the main points of this mixed-use development. So it's not a downtown. We need to be clear about that. There's a lot of people who have called this a downtown. It's really an urban place for the city of Troy. Number one. Number two, it's meant to utilize space in the city that we identified probably 4 years ago at our first retreat. So this is at Automation Alley, so it probably was 4 years ago. So this is a concept that's evolved over a few years, and it's still a concept. We need to be really clear about that. The city council has never said, go forward with this, shovels in the dirt. We were at where the city council stopped last year, the end of last year, was we had an RFQ, or request for qualifications, out on the street for developers across the country to submit their qualifications in terms of their development experience, their financials, to make sure that if we selected a developer, they had the wherewithal to do a $350 million project. We've heard a lot of comments about that's a big number, but we never got to that point. The city council took the request for qualifications off the table to go back and talk to people. So a couple of things. Out of that last year, these discussions, the city council established a green space initiative. And we had our first meeting the other night, I don't know, was it Wednesday night, right? Thursday? Well, it seems like yesterday. So it's a really good group. It was well attended, and it was the Park and Recs Committee. And from that, a subcommittee is being formed to identify green space, define green space, talk about how you could preserve it, things that you can do. And the city's already done a few things with woodland protection and cluster ordinance. So it's not like people are sitting idly by, and the city's very interested in green space. But I know Tim McGee is here, and he's the chairperson of that subcommittee. Tim? Okay, Tim's right here. Kelly Molinar is in the city manager's office, and she will be the staff liaison for that. Kurt Bovenseep will also be involved. So if you have questions or want to get involved, see Kelly Molinar in the back after this or during this, anytime. We do want people to be involved in that. It's going to be a good process, and one that's probably long overdue, except the city has done this over the years many times, so it's right to do it again. To identify or to demonstrate how serious the city is about this process, and I don't want to politicize this, but I do want to say I think I saw almost every council member in here, including the mayor and other council. Just raise your hand if you're a council member. So this process of engagement is being taken very serious, and that's why we want to give every opportunity. So with that said, we have a few posters around the room, and we're going to have you get up and obviously some people have already put new ideas up there. So new ideas, dislikes, likes, unanswered questions. There's a few boards here that show you what the plan looks like today. It's very changeable, obviously, and that's what we've been saying, and there's been no decision to go with this plan, another plan, or any other type of plan. So this board over here, it has markers. This is a board that and there's no title, but I just want you to know, we want to know how to engage with the public, with you all, and everyone who's not in this room. I have to be really, really honest with you. We struggle with this every day. We talked about it for 3 hours yesterday, probably, with a professor from Wayne State, trying to figure out, everyone wants public engagement, but it's hard to engage the public with those that aren't here. And so I just want you, if you have ideas about how to do public engagement, please write it down. If you don't like our format if you don't like our format today, if you like it, whatever, if you think you have an idea of how to change it, how to do it better, please let us know. Mr. Chamberlain here is very clear with me the other night, hey, make sure you have sound and make sure the seating is right for people. And so we do listen to the feedback and we want it. We're not the experts here. So we really want to know what you think. So with that, I think I've covered everything. The RFQ, I just want you to understand that's a request for qualifications. It wasn't a request for a proposal. It was simply what developer, if any, across the country or local, has the willingness and wherewithal to discuss a project like that, like we're talking about with us, whether it's change, whether it's not. So we're not going to take questions today, and I'm not apologizing for that. This is your opportunity to tell us. Now, after you put your stickies in the right appropriate places, we will come back and I'll go over some of the questions or the comments or the likes or dislikes. So at least you leave here with an idea with what some of the people are saying. Okay? Does that make sense? All right.
Brian, should people put their names if they want to on their...
Oh, sorry, yeah. If you would like, and you don't have to do this, it can be anonymous, put your name and probably email address, and then we'll start a database for this project to continue to get information out. I neglected to say the website is up and we'll continue to have information. Now, we took a lot of it down while everything was going on last year, but the Green Space Initiative is up there on the home page, on the front page, and we'll continue to provide information from these forums on our website so everyone has access. Make sense? You had a question on the format.
Hello, my name is Sadia. You said we are here like we wanted to see like what the citizens are thinking about this. You did your presentation. You want us to ask some question, apparently put our ideas, but I feel uncomfortable that when you say we cannot discuss it, it's like you're taking our ideas that it's like you're going to have the last decision, and I don't feel comfortable with this, like if we can have another meeting or something.
Yes, great comment. So everyone heard what she said. She feels like because there's no dialogue that we're going to have the last decision and not really listen. So that couldn't be further from the truth. The truth is we are going to listen, we are going to take this information and put it together, give it to the city council, and then and share it with everyone. No conclusions, no recommendations, just the data, just the commonalities that we see in some of the areas, if there are, and then the city council will determine what the next step is. And that's just, somebody has to make that determination on how to go forward, and this is a city project, or a city concept, I should say. So we will be communicating back with people, and there will be no decisions made by us. It'll go to the city council for their deliberation, discussion, dialogue, and determine where to go from there. But we will keep everyone as informed as possible in various ways. So if you really want to be informed, put your name and email address on one of the papers, and that's a guarantee. I should say there are several planning commission members here as well, so that's how important. Sorry, I didn't mention that. If you're on the planning commission, raise your hand. I see, well, I guess they all sit together. That's Lori Bloom, the city attorney's here, so I think you guys might not want to deliberate. So just say.
You wanted to provide an overview of what you see on the boards today before we get into this?
Councilmember Hoderick just said we are going to provide an overview of some of the boards, and I'll go through all of them before we leave, which is why we gave ourselves 2 hours, an hour to do this, and then probably a half hour or something to do that. So we will do that. So with that, stand up, stretch your legs, and walk around the room, and we'll reconvene. If everybody could have a seat, we'll get started again. Okay, so one person came up to me after we broke out and said, where did we advertise this meeting here? So I do know it was in the Gazette on the front page. There was a press release that went out. It was on the website. It was on Facebook. Troy Times had it. Did you have it? Where's Terry, you had it in the Troy Times. Thank you. You wrote about it? So somebody said the person said it wasn't in the Troy Times. So anyway, my point is we don't know how to advertise, and those are the venues we use in the vessel. So that's why I wanted to know how to better do this. So they want me to tweet or somebody to tweet it. I mean, I do a lot of tweeting. I don't know if you follow me. Ellen tweeted it, right? So okay. Facebook forum with comment section. Okay. WebEx and chat. Okay, so you want me to write that? Was that here? Let me just finish these. Eliminate 3 minutes at council meeting, increase to at least 5 minutes, 3 minutes too short for many people to make. Please address any cost, the taxpayer for this versus any contributions to the tax base if developed. So I think that might go somewhere else. Unanswered questions? Thank you. Okay. So anyway, those are the only ways that people have suggested to get the word out. So, okay, you want me to write that down? Next door. Okay. So what she's saying is one of the challenges with that is every subdivision has their own account. So we'll do our best to use these venues. So again, rather than taking the comments from the floor, let's just write it down if you have an idea. So let's start with likes. So the likes are great start, not sure about the hotel, like the concept. Interestingly enough, that's what Bob Gibbs was saying. You know, the hotel isn't a given. These are just spots on there for some of the best uses. Okay, I love the idea and the concept. If the city decides to move forward with the development, do not disregard Bob Gibbs' advice about what is non-negotiable to make this development a success. If the city tries too hard to make too many people happy and disregards the experts' advice, the Civic Center development plan will fail, and that helps no one. So that person had a lot to write. Must be an attorney. So anyway, I can't read this one. Arts Council something, yes. Like the stream enhancement, listen, incorporate good ideas, but don't let this amazing project die because of fear. Fear kills dreams and visions. Go forward, I support, will make Troy more attractive as a place to live. Residential and business will supply more taxes to support our great services. Like inclusion of a lake with paths. Love keeping about some amount of green space and making Huber Park more usable, welcoming, love keeping creek. Lake idea, walkable area, refacing Troy City Hall from Big Beaver Road view. Using open space among areas, 6 to 5 acre lake around the community. Remember, this lake is actually a retention pond as well. It's to store the water. Good update, format, presentation. I like it. Not sure about the hotel. Add performing arts center. Love the forward thinking, plan to make Troy desirable. Like that we are not losing green space with the new concept plan, just rearranging some areas. Great concept. Troy needs this project. Hello? Somebody say something? Mayor Stein, was that you? Yeah, right? Okay. I like the lake. I like rerouting the stream to create real stream at grade with walkable path around. So those are some of the likes. Does anybody want to comment on any of those that maybe they wrote? This will be the time, right? Not a question, just a comment about any of that? If you wrote it. No? Okay, let's go to dislikes. Construction disruption for many years. $350 million, I think it's $350 million better spent to populate existing commercial and industrial vacant properties. I came to hear what residents had to say, not another sell job from Core, Gibbs, and I'll add Kishnick. So, would prefer no hotel. Seems like you are repeating the private sector, office, retail, and housing that already there. Is this necessary? I want the other area you developed. Something, okay? Keep the Civic Center public, develop it per old study done several years ago. Farmers Market, Lake, Ice Skating Theater, allocate $1 million a year for several years. So that's talking about the plan that was done, help me everyone, 2008? Sorry, Brian was involved in that. And we've talked about that plan as well, and the council has. Put the question of this development to a vote of the people. The few people here do not represent the total voting public, okay? So the council talked about that, and if something were to go forward, the idea of putting it to a vote of the people. And I don't want to speak for the city council, but it seemed like that was a consensus at some level. Too commercial, nothing new. With time, buildings, commerce decline. Nature lasts. Okay. Okay. 850 seems like a lot of residential. If RO is at 600, seems like a lot. Appreciate that it is more space than Royal Oak. Just a comment. Stay out of Troy Central Park. There currently is plenty of walkable space. Do not understand need for more. Existing home values in Troy are very good. Homes sell quickly and at a good price. This could drive down home values. Dilution. Okay. All drawings show flat land. I would like to see some of the existing topography could be appreciated and used. So, a little more three-dimensional, I think, is what we're talking about. I don't think Troy needs another hotel as part of this project. Replace it with more housing stock, maybe a high-rise apartment. Plan seems too dense, not enough green space. Troy is already brimming with restaurants and retail. When is enough enough? Okay. Why this project at all? Why now? Okay, a city within a city, the average residents will feel aliens to this development. We are not in favor of developing the Civic Center, keep it green space, or it will look like the rest of Troy. Moving Aquatic Center is ridiculous, or Huber Park unnecessary. Okay, I think I got everything there. Did I? Where did I miss? This one? Replanting Huber Park. Do not address parking. Do not trust you are keeping all of the green space that exists. I would like more. Justify need for another hotel in Troy. So a little bit of a trust issue. The only open space that can be protected is what is owned by the city. Keep the Civic Center open and not turn it into a real estate development. Okay. Don't like 7 people making decisions for our public land. City council can still sell our land without the citizens' votes. Council has the last word. Vote. Okay. I got everything now. Anybody want to comment on that? Who wrote some of that? Does anybody want to make a comment? Mayor Stein?
You didn't read my comment.
Okay, which one is it, Mayor Stein?
It's the one regarding traffic generation. Currently, I can't get out onto
Hold on, Mayor Stein.
Currently, I can't get out onto 16 Mile Road from my subdivision without waiting for traffic. Now we're going to add 850 homes, additional retail, plus what we already have in the Civic Center. This will generate another 3,000 cars at the least, which is absolutely ridiculous.
All right, thank you, Mayor Stein. I don't see it, but anyway, I think she got her point across really well. As always. Thank you, Mayor Stein. Yeah, I'm going to take one more.
I'd like to elaborate on my comment up there. What I meant to say was that the $50 million that we're discussing with this $350 million project, I feel could be better spent on economic development activities to try to populate the currently vacant commercial and industrial properties that we have in Troy. If you drive by any industrial park, you see vacancies all over the place, commercial and industrial buildings. The Kmart headquarters has been sitting there for about 10 years. There's probably rats running around in there right now. So I just think that to go ahead and build new buildings and pave over our Civic Center campus at this point doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The other thing is regarding the, I'm trying to think of what my other comment, the construction disruption. A project of this size, $350 million, would probably entail construction over a period of at least 5 years, maybe more than that. So if you hate road construction, just imagine what it would be like in the Civic Center area with barriers, road closures, mud, noise, cement mixers, dump trucks, and bulldozers driving around in that area for 5 years. So that was what I was trying to enumerate in my comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Good comment. Oh, Padma?
You can read this, but I never made it over to that board because it was at the opposite corner, if you want to.
Oh, sure. So can we create friendly competition? Will the Troy Town Center concept nudge other landowners, developers, to build similar projects or improve their projects, such as Kmart old headquarters site? Okay. So that's an unanswered question, right? That's what you're talking about, Padma? Okay, well, let me go to the next board. Did anybody else? I don't want anybody to feel like they couldn't comment. I want everybody to comment. Who? Okay, thank you.
I don't want to use it.
Well, we have to because we're videotaping this so that we can get the word out.
I'm sorry. I wanted to comment on the person who said, why don't we use our money to improve existing things? I live off of Rochester Road, and I drove down with my husband, and we started at what used to be the Ram's Horn, and then I went down. Now the Hooters is gone, and there's the pita place that's gone, and then there's a whole mall this way that's gone, and then they just closed National Island. It looks seedy. I mean, this is where I live. This is where my kids are going to live. I want money put into the old Taco Bell. That's been, vacant for 15 years. Why build all this beautiful stuff and let the rest of Troy go to pot? Thank you.
Right, go to pot. Okay, so Mark Miller's here from the city manager's office. Mark, here's the one project I hear coming from this. We need to identify a lot of these areas because old Kmart headquarters comes up, and I'm not going to talk about that because it comes up all the time. But we're going to put the Taco Bell, do a report and put it on the website of all these common sites and what the status is, and then I don't have to keep saying that I meet with Nate Forbes in the Kmart headquarters, and it's really on their, it's up to them. They own the building without going into all of that, and I can tell Nate Forbes to do a lot of things, and he's going to do what they think is in their best interest, and they care about that area and the city, right? Because they've got a huge investment over there. So anyway, anybody else want to speak that feels like they want to get their word out? Okay. Okay. Yes, sir. There's a lot of notes here. Are we going to, okay.
Okay. We're talking about participation and 7 people changing everything. You haven't even dipped your toe in participation. Back in '76, when they were doing the same kind of thing, we had 40,000 people in the city, and at the old high school gym, there was 400 people showed up. That's 1% of the population. Here we have 80,000 people. We have 80 people in this room, and that's 1/10 of 1% showing up. You aren't even trying. Back then, they didn't have television, they didn't have internet, and yet 10 times as many, 5 times as many people showed up. You had 4 or 5 or 6 perspective possibilities on what might be done, and I didn't even realize it until around the 3rd or 4th, and I'm very much tuned into it. You don't try to get that word out. There's a little ad about that big, and it would happen to have been on the front page this time, and so that's why we got some people here. On the television, they have a spot on Channel 10, and every 5 minutes they got a loop, and it's the same stuff. 5 minutes, that means it's 24 times an hour, times 20 hours a day. 240 times a day, they talk about, you know, the swimming thing, the cup stacking thing, a bunch of stuff, and there's nothing, not 1 square inch about these civic projects and these things going on. If you want to dip your toe in communications, let's start there. Now,
Okay.
wait, one-
Sorry.
I go to other cities. I've seen other things. I was up in Petoskey and that, a little town. On their local TV, they have the same kind of thing. Here's a nice thing. We have a aquatic center. We have this. We have that and that. But on the first of every hour, for 5 minutes, is the posting board, the stuff that's happening now, the stuff that people want to know about. Not stealth advertising, real and tangible advertising. How in 1976 did 400 people find out about this? They had a little card this big by this big, and they put it on Sid's drugstore. They put it on 100 drugstore. They put it at the restaurants. They put it at the skating rink. They put it at the things there. Just a little cardboard thing put in the windows, and they communicated. Now, you guys aren't even trying to communicate. I'm serious.
Okay, I think I get the point. We're not communicating, and we want to. That's why we have the board over there. How can we communicate? So any ideas you have on that, we're not averse to the ideas. So 1 second.
The way in which a citizen in this city can communicate with their council members and with their planning commission board is through the email on the website. You don't ever have to just come to a meeting. You don't ever have to just come to a special event if you want to communicate with any of us. We have a website, we have emails. They are open for you to use at your convenience at any time. There's never been an email that has been written to that website on the internet that wasn't disseminated to the appropriate people, whether that was city council or whether that was planning commission. So please feel free. If you want to communicate with the people that are making the decisions about what goes on in your city, visit City Hall, call City Hall, email City Hall. It's not just limited to these forums. And if people aren't here, that doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't know about it. It may mean that they don't want to be here. I mean, I'm here, it's a choice. It's a choice that we all make. So feel free to email any of us at any time, and we will respond to you in a timely fashion.
Okay, good. Did you have something?
I just wanted to ask what might happen to our taxes if this does get developed, because I would think if you have a new tax base here that my taxes would go down.
Okay, good. General question. So we're not taking a question. So that will be under unanswered questions, if you're all right with that. Okay, if that's okay. All right. So let me move on to new ideas. Definitely need a new library. Put into every issue of Troy Times for meeting. Think regionally, work with Clawson to expand their walkable downtown north towards Troy, or maybe annex Clawson. Okay, all right, so that's okay. Put this project on the old Kmart headquarters site. Where is the parking? We need a new library. Library needs to be expanded. Something problem or or replaced something. Okay, must make new building, the Troy Public Library. I'm glad we met at the library today. There needs to be assurance that there will not be empty retail space. Also assurances that doesn't become more fast food chain restaurants. Phase in steps that allow the citizens to say that's good or that's bad, all without creating budgetary consequences for the city. Develop the 2004 plan. More public use projects, expand the library. Bring in more young people, not sure how. Add picnic tables, grills along New Lake area. Add a small transportation hub. How about a skating ring? Aesthetic feature of 5-story building at northwest corner of Civic Center Drive and Livernois Road is poor. Please keep the lung space. I just think that means open space, I think. Develop open green spaces as park buildings. As park, not buildings, sorry, as park. How about a civil-private partnership to improve unused areas like Crooks Road and South Boulevard, Rochester Road, Kmart building. Most trees in Huber Park are gorgeous, 10 foot to 13 feet around. I've enjoyed the serenity and fresh air walking through Huber Park in all seasons. I don't want the aquatic center in Huber Park if possible. I think there's more in the back. To lose green forest. It is Huber Park place to walk where I can take a deep breath and not breathe in car exhaust, truck exhaust, pesticides, etc. Keep area around Huber Park walkable. No business, no resident. No hotel. It doesn't say that though. Use the future Civic building, perhaps convert it to a large gazebo structure for concerts, art shows, farmers market, etc. And at Mini Expo Center for local businesses to set up display shows. Include an enclosed year-round farmer market similar to Royal Oak. So there is a farmer's market that the Cindy Stewart actually is putting on. Just 2 seconds, Cindy.
It's going to start June 1st. It's going to be every Friday from 1 to 6 p.m. It's going to be across from the Aquatic Center in that parking lot, just west of Town Center and Civic Center intersection. If anyone, we've been visiting other farmers markets all last year and this summer. Anybody knows anyone that, you know, would want to fill out an application and be a vendor, tell them to contact me, but we're excited for this new venture for Troy.
Thank you. Okay, I was familiar with an urban fishing program in Tempe, Arizona. The lake proposed could accommodate such, providing year-round access programs for youth, disabled ramp, seniors. What about Kmart headquarters building? What about empty building at Crooks Road exit and I-75? Yeah. Yes, the Met Hotel. Put on ballot for voters to decide. This one is to Brent S., which I think is Brent Savana, the city planning director. Ridby's Bakery has better muffins than Red Hook. Little humor goes a long way. Okay. Incorporate the high rise on the appropriate side of the freeway with median story building in the Civic Center to expand the visual impact. Then we have a name with their email address, and I think I only received 2 up at the table, so just put them up at the table if you want to be on that list. Civic Center should be focused on being maintenance for all community, maintained for all community. So any housing and commercial should be minimal, include high-end senior housing, and perhaps for singles, higher end, focusing on property use for all in Troy. Okay, we do not need a new city hall or library. We didn't need an information desk, an employee in the city hall, costing ongoing money when city hall has signs well posted. That money could be saved to use for developing community center, city center amenities. Allow one master developer, but also allow multiple developers for the diversity of housing stock. Develop a phased approach to show as final pictures are too extreme to visualize. Okay. Anybody want to talk about ideas that they may have written up there? Okay.
Regarding the library, we are sitting in probably the best room of the library, the most recently updated and furnished and everything. I'm with the Friends. I spent a lot of time in the basement. I spent a lot of time in this building, working in the bookshop and so forth. And so I put down a comment about we definitely need to address the state of this building, because if we do not, sooner or later, it is going to fall apart. The roof is already terrible. The HVAC system is out of date. The windows in many areas, I think some have been replaced or should be replaced. I don't know exactly, but to those who say we don't need a new library, we desperately need some maintenance on this building, and I'm sure that the City Hall must be in a very similar position. And so I think any development, my ideas were definitely we need to look at a new building. And so that new Civic piece that's being saved, got my eye on that for the library, because we definitely need it. And I think if we're going to move forward, we have to take care of the civic buildings as well. And the way to do that is to get some developers in here with their money to help us.
Okay. Somebody else? Somebody else? You?
I just wanted to say, it's a real good point, and but I'm a preservationist, and I'd like to see, of course, keeping this, but adding on. And of course, we have to think of the infrastructure. That's why the people coming up with proposals about putting single-family residential in the park. We got the whole city to work with to put residential. Okay, getting back to that, the highest engineering, the highest technical resources is what we should go to. Go to other universities, go to other places, and find out what's the furthest advances in solar, in thermal, and so many ways of saving for the future. That should be incorporated in all new designs. And so I'm agreeing with you, but I'd like to keep what we got in so many cases and add on to it and bring it to the furthest update so that we will represent the city of tomorrow today.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to say something about ideas? Or did you come up with a new idea? Good. Okay, so this is unanswered questions. I'm going to do my best. This is the biggest board. I mean, the most stickies on a board. So that's good, right? To me, that's the good news. This is what we haven't dipped our toe in and answered. So this will be very helpful. How long would construction for a $350 million project take? Will citizens be allowed to vote on such a huge project? Where can I find the feasibility studies done for the Gibbs report? Answer via community center contacts or website. Transportation services to other citizen needs, i.e. churches, museums, nature center, fireman's park, etc. My main concern is how will the new development have a positive effect on Troy's existing population? How will this help our sense of community increase and improve a feeling of connection? This seems like an effort to standardize Troy to be like other cities. What's that? Okay, let me finish this one. To just follow, copy the features of other places, lake, fountain. We should figure out what is already special at Troy and work with what we have. Make it our own and make it work for the population. Oh, okay. Will there be a vote on this project so Troy residents will have a say? Will all of these sticky note questions be answered so we see results? How will this be paid for? So, just feel like I have to answer, I know. So yes, we will do our best to answer every single question on here and put it on the website. That is why we're here today, to get the feedback and do our best to answer when we have answers. Where is money coming from for development? How will extra traffic be handled? What is the residential and what is the daytime population of Birmingham Royal Oak? How will all of this be built and keep the existing green space size? What will each type of housing cost? Can Huber Park trees be left alone so animals can stay in place? Why does this plan have to be commercial? How many empty buildings, retail, is in the city? Publish a report that shows the sequence of events that changed the Civic Center property from parkland with citizens' voting rights to not parkland. Okay. Question for Mr. Gibbs. How many, if any, town centers have been developed on government-owned municipal property? So how many, so the next one is same. What is the vacancy and similar proposed housing at Coolidge and Maple? What is vacancy and similar proposed housing at Coolidge and Maple? Many of us walk in Somerset Mall in winter. I like the idea of walkability in the town center, but wonder if some accommodation for winter walking has been considered. Why would there be a new hotel on the proposed Civic Center site when there are already at least 5 hotels, including 2 brand new ones, within 1 mile of the Civic Center? What will be done to ensure adequate parking spaces in the town center concept? Why can't Civic Center be put in parkland? Allow the people to vote on what happens to their public land. Did the DEQ approve the lake? Lake equals pond. Answer via community center email, contacts, or website. I live on Adams and Big Beaver Road. What value is a walkable community if I have to drive to get there? I might as well drive to my destination like I do today. What is driving this? Citizens of Troy? Will there be financial concessions to populate this? How can the council manage a project like this after the 10-year train station fiasco? That's the one that ended up built on land we did not own. What is expected price of the housing? Some empty nesters and recent grads cannot afford typical high-end project prices. Troy prices, sorry. How much of this cost does the city bear? Up front, one time, ongoing. Will the retail restaurant in this development pull too much business from existing places? Can city management and staff state in writing that more of you will have any, that some of, I think some of you will have any financial stake in the ownership or management of any aspect of this project? Okay. The 2015 master plan identified 3 specific walkability projects on Big Beaver, yet no visible changes have been made, and city is spending jobs on time? Jobs? Oh, gobs of time. Okay. A town center concept plan. Do what's in the master plan now make Big Beaver more walkable? Please address concerns about traffic congestion, which would affect all Troy residents, not just those living in the proposed town center. When Big Beaver gets backed up, it's no fun. Our police station is located in this area and needs quick access outside. How can a city that cannot afford to keep its library open on Friday possibly afford this project? Please address any cost to the taxpayers for this development versus any contribution to the tax base if developed. Why is another hotel needed by the new town center when there are already 2 to 3 hotels nearby? Given that I-75 is a noisy, non-walkable divider of Troy, what is planned to foster use of the city resources by outlying residents who must drive great distances to benefit from our $350 million investment? Why not use the 2001 Civic Center Task Force report as the basis for the plan? For example, to afford a fountain, we need this private investment. How much will this cost the Troy taxpayers? How will this impact existing shops, homes, restaurants, hotels, etc.? Won't the competition hurt I think already struggling enterprises, which is most of Troy? Seniors are leaving Troy. Why should this be a place for seniors? So stores are being put in this project. In 10 years, Somerset will be empty stores. Please explain the use of long-term lease for commercial areas of Concept Place. Parking. How close to community center areas is community center, library, government offices? Now it's lots next to buildings, handicap parking by each building. To what extent did the Troy Civic Center concept planners take into account existing office, retail, restaurant, housing, hotel housing, and other private sector resources already available in the vicinity surrounding the Troy Civic Center? These pink or red or something ones are hard to read. Why is urban walkable important? Why is multifamily housing necessary? It increases traffic, could drive down existing property values, bring in too many people. Any development of this size should be voted on by citizens of Troy. Will this be happening prior to any decision? Who is paying for this development and also the ongoing increased police, fire department, personnel, etc.? Presenters seem to be saying that multifamily and smaller housing is a plus or a good thing. Many current residents do not agree. How do you support your position? How is the traffic going to flow with only 2 entrances and seems like it will be hard to get to the library? Households without cars equal why no cars? What is their median income? What schools would absorb the students? Next time, put meeting in the Troy Today Times paper. Leave it alone, walk away, it's not needed or wanted by most. An impressive plan, but a major US bank estimates out that I think 20 to 25% of the 1,100 shopping malls in the US will close by 2022. Oakland Mall and Somerset appear to be struggling. Downtown Detroit and a new mall at the Kmart headquarters site are competitors. Have you assessed the risks over the county, I think? Have you assessed the risks? I get the question. Don't want it at all. If it has to go, no apartments. So that's not really an unanswered question. I think that would be a dislike, right? So we'll move these. What is the plan to update, improve the library, or build a new one? Will the square with retail and residential be built with form-based requirements so that future uses are flexible but don't change the look of the buildings? What is the current capacity utilization of the Troy Marriott? Is there enough demand for another hotel in the area? What are all of these city planning at doing to earn the trust of the Troy residents? Okay, so I think the question is, what are we doing to earn the trust of the residents? You have done a poor job of handling this project. New ongoing costs will happen for the city in developing Hewer Park, foster maintenance. No tax money used, expand the community center. Millennials don't pay the majority of taxes. I think I got everything on unanswered questions. Anybody want to comment on unanswered questions? So here we go.
Thank you. I think I agree with the man there at the table. I don't know his name. With you. Yeah. I think like to make the city prosper and make it more attractive, why do we have to copy like the project of other cities? For me, I think we have to work with what we have already here and find a way to make it better. Like we have to get rid of the swimming, the aquatic center. It's going to cost money. Then you have to relocate it. It's going to cost money, and you're going to have like a downtown, a center just in a place. So people, I think, that are going to live there are going to enjoy what they have. I think what we need, it's like the whole population of the whole city we need to communicate together. We need to find a way to bring them together in a place. Everybody needs to be part of this, especially our kids. Like we have 2 high school, like 4,000, just for a high school, we have more than 4,000 kids. In summertime, we need to find a way to keep them here because everyone in summertime is going in another place to have fun. In wintertime, they're all going to look for a warmer place or a big swimming area. Our population is leaving. I think the most important thing is like how to keep Troy population in here with what we have. I don't know, that's my thinking. Thank you.
That's good. So that's the question was, how do we keep people in Troy with what we're thinking? Where's the next question, comment? This is unanswered questions. Who wants to comment on that? Nobody? Okay.
First of all, I thank you for this. I think this has been very informative. But my question is, one of my bigger questions are, number one, I'm not for that kind of a development only because I feel it's self-serving to a few people. Because my biggest concern, sir, is where are you going to put the parking? Now, even Mr. Gibbs talked about parking would have to be underground, which is extremely expensive, in order for us to be able to go there and have fun and feel like we're part of it. I'm just concerned that the amount of density that you have there is not going to be able to be served by the whole community. I'd like to see, I understand we need money and developers bring money for our civic centers, our own buildings. I understand that, the library and all that. I thoroughly understand that. But I also feel it's just way too dense, and I don't feel that we have enough parking that would be able to even self-serve that.
Hold on 1 second, Bob. I'll give you the mic, so real quick.
Okay. I don't want to answer questions, but I just have to clarify that we're not proposing underground parking.
Okay. So the question is there enough parking, though? And I think we've heard that. And the other question is it too dense? If I could summarize your comments into two questions. Okay, yes.
Could either Mr. Gibbs or Mr. Farrell answer the question about long-term leases? I did think that was an issue that was not clarified during the charter amendment.
Right, we will, and we'll be writing the answer to that question and getting it out to everybody. So I think I think it was on there, and actually, Don, I think I saw your name by it. Absolutely. See, I remember that stuff. Anybody else? Anybody else want to make a comment? It's 1:45. This has been, in my opinion, the best session we've done, and I'm not just saying it. It's really, really helpful, and I'm glad we use this format to get all this information and questions and comments and thoughts. So we will be having one more at the community center. It's the 24th of January at 6 p.m. At the community center. So if there's nothing, so that's going to be advertised the ways that we used before, which is the newspapers agree to put it in there. Okay, and Facebook, and then these places. And if you have any ideas, other ideas on how to get the word out, please write it on here. We're open to any ideas. Okay, you'll write it on there? Will you write it on there? Oh, okay, yes. Pardon me? Hold on. Hold on one second.
Could you just do a mass mailing like you did before the election? Okay. Since it is just the one more meeting. Thank you.
So she's asking, can we do a mass mailing like we did before the election with the content neutral flyer on the charter amendment? And so if we could just write that down, I'll write it down when I get up there. So the other question was, will it be the same format? And the answer is yes. It'll be hopefully exactly the same. And that's the idea.
You could probably put notices up at the community center, because a lot of people go to the community center and there's I didn't see any notice of this one at all.
Okay, so notices at the community center.
One of the most logical ways of communicating is for everybody in this room to share the experience. A face-to-face communication is always worth far more than what you get in the mail, what you find on television. We're it.
Okay, so tell somebody you know.
Excuse me.
Yes. We need the microphone. We're taping this.
You were asking about expanding ideas and stuff like that. I think that's a real good idea. And just a little while ago, I brought up, and this always happens, you go to the city council meetings, you go to that, and they have the public forum, and somebody comes up with a real good idea. And what happens is they say, next. I mean, they don't acknowledge it. They don't expand on it. They don't say, here's a phone number where you can call, or we have a committee that's working on that. That's one of the gigantic, terrific ideas come through and die instantly because you go say, next. Well, these things, let me finish.
Okay.
The point is, I brought up a real good idea. I'm not talking about an average idea. I'm talking about something that's so inexpensive, so obvious, it has to make you think that you're not trying to communicate. And that was the idea is of the 240 messages an hour that you're sending out there, we get it. We get those messages. Now take some of that space. Television is the #1 medium. We use email. A lot of old people don't even have, I'm talking about you want to reach everybody. You've got an existing format that you just totally ignore. If communication was your, in any way, goal, you could do a lot.
So the unanswered question is, we don't want just one person dominate. We really, okay. So, okay, this is not the purpose. We are going to be civil. This is, these are the traps that we got into in the 6 town hall meetings. We're all going to be here after this, if there's nobody else. We're all going to be here. And the one way, I don't have enough cards, but I will write my cell phone number on the board here. And you can always call me if you don't have email. If you have email, please feel free to email me. Okay, all right.
It's not having some individual.
Hold on.
It's not having some individual find your hidden stealth information. We're talking about mass communication. you put it someplace where hundreds and hundreds of people can see it. We're not talking about an email, and if I don't know what to do, call you or something. No. We're talking about mass communication so that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, as they walk by in their ordinary life, would have this information. And on television, 240 times an hour, you have the same information.
I really don't want to end like this, folks, because this has been a great, great forum. So please, we're going to put it on television. Thank you all for coming. There'll be another one, and we appreciate it.